Welcome to another episode of Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rachelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. All right. Hey, peace. Welcome. Welcome to Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rachelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. Today, we have a special guest. We are honored to be speaking with award-winning music journalist, author of The Butterfly Effect, How Kendrick Lamar Ignited the Soul of Black America. Today, we have with us none other than Marcus J. Moore. Welcome, Marcus.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure.
Definitely, man. Great to see you, brother. Oh, can you hear us?
Likewise, man. Good hearing from y'all. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, cool. Yeah, if we have any technical issues, don't worry. We'll just keep pushing through. But if you see me moving around a little bit, that's me figuring things out on this side. But great to have you, brother.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, definitely. So I want to start out by talking a little bit about the book. I mean, we're going to spend more time talking about, your upbringing in Landover, Maryland, your path and your journey. One of your contemporaries, colleagues, had this to say: Marcus J. Moore's look at Kendrick Lamar's beautifully illustrates the power of the word and the great value it holds in the community that birthed hip hop. Therein, we all better understand and appreciate why Black lives and rhymes matter. That was said by Sasha Jenkins, Emmy-nominated director and Showtime documentary director for Wu-Tang Clan. How does that feel?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, because Sasha knows, like, I'm a huge fan of his. Like, I've always wanted, like, I aspire to his career for real. Like, he's one of these people, as y'all know, like he was around in the early 90s and throughout the 90s, helping to sort of document hip hop. But then now he literally does whatever he wants. If he wants to do a documentary, he can do that, but he's also at mass appeal. So for somebody like Sasha to say something like that is crazy. Like, with all those blurbs on the back, because you know how it is as a creator, you just figure your head's in the laptop, you're not really paying much attention. And then you look up and you notice that people are noticing your work. So it felt good, man. It still feels good just to hear that now.
Yeah,
for sure, man.
I mean, you've been putting in work for quite some time. You're not a newbie. You've been, from NPR, locally here at WTOP, Washington Post, Pitchfork, The Nation, The Atlantic, Rolling Stone. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Like, you've put in the work, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. It still trips me out that, like, just talking to y'all now, and Stan, I know Stan, like, I know Substantial. This is crazy. And like, anytime I'm talking to like Kokai, it's like, I could just call Kokai. Like, this is nuts, man. Like, I still can't believe it.
Yeah,
man. Dude, listen, man, while I take that energy, I receive it, I appreciate it, but the feelings are mutual, man. I said to the homie Natural about a week ago, one of my greatest pleasures is being able to look at my friends and the different people I've aligned myself over the years and be just as proud of what they're doing as what I've managed to do in my life. And so you're included in that, man. Every time we see a new accolade or something that you got going on, it's a blessing, you know what I mean? And we're happy for you, like it happened to us. So keep rocking,
Your win is our win.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, man.
Hashtag my friends are dope.
It was cool. It was cool. Like, even seeing y'all is busy, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that, I don't take for granted at all.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of home, let's take it back to, you grew up in Landover, Maryland, which is part of Prince George's County in Maryland. Tell us about growing up in the 80s and 90s in PG.
Oh, man. It was, especially growing up in Landover, like, it was a very tight-knit community. I grew up on Eli Place, which was maybe like a block up. Well, it was right across from Hill Road. and it was a block up from the Glen Willow apartments. So we were literally on that Seat Pleasant line. So you know how it is. Like, that's where I grew up. And growing up on Eli Place, man, like, you know, it was a street full of tight knit communities and like really close families. And so you can go up the way and have dinner at your friend's house, or go over here and have, you know, lunch at somebody else's house, and it was all love. So growing up in Landover and growing up on that street definitely gave me the sort of family, the backbone that I needed, you know, like, and they foster dreams, right? So it's like, you know, it's like growing up in Landover, growing up anywhere, where if you have a community of people around you who see that you're trying to do something, they see that you love music, and they see that you love writing, and they sort of foster that that creativity. It's a blessing. Growing up around it was, you know, when I tell other people, oh, I'm from Landover, they just figure like it's this tenuous, like, you know, it was life or death or something like that. And it wasn't like that at all, man. It was really chill. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was in the 80s and the 90s, and it's right by DC and right by Fairmont Heights. So, you know,
I've heard the stories.
So you see some stuff. So it's actually some playful banter that my wife and I have, because she grew up in DC in the 80s. And so she's like, oh, y'all had houses. And I was like, yeah, we had a house, but I'm still going to the park and I'm seeing all this nonsense. So it was, you know, growing up in Landover wasn't any different from growing up in the city, because you're still getting the same sort of blowback that they were dealing with.
For sure.
When would you say, while you were growing up in Landover, when would you say you were first exposed to the arts, specifically the written word?
I want to say it was, I was probably 5 years old. Because, you know, I grew up sort of infatuated with music from the beginning. Like, I was born in 81. So MTV was just getting started. Naturally, I wasn't watching it in 81. I started watching like 84, 85. But then and there is where I saw, like, you know, I'm seeing everything from like David Bowie videos to, you know, The Cure to Michael Jackson and all this stuff. And so, you know, I'm looking at all this music, all these music videos, but at the same time, I would just write. Like, I wasn't exposed to books per se. You know what I mean? I didn't necessarily grow up in that kind of household, but I just naturally took to give me a pen, give me a piece of paper, and I'm just going to scribble something. Yeah. So I would say my first introduction also dovetails with when I started looking at music videos. You know, I started putting two and two together at a very young age. Now, I veered off the path as I got older, but then I came back to it. So that's a long-winded answer, but I would say it was around, like, I would say like 85, 86 is when I was like, oh, writing is cool. Words are cool. Let me stick with that. Yeah.
That's what's up. And you dabbled with different types of writing over the years too. Like, of course, a lot of people know you as a journalist, now an accomplished author. But your pen did some other work. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to see if you know what I'm hitting toward. By the laugh. Okay. I think you know what I'm talking about.
See, go ahead, Stan, man.
Right.
No, that's love though. No, when did I used to rap. It was in the 4th grade. I started in the 4th grade. I was writing raps. Here's how crazy I was. I was writing raps, right? I was at Kenworth Elementary in Bowie, and I would show my raps. It was like these like super black, like black liberation joints, stuff I had no business writing.
In 4th grade.
In 4th grade, I was on it, boy.
Right.
I used to show these joints to my teacher. And she was like this white lady, Miss Emerson. I used to, hey, I wrote this rap, and I would show it to her, and she'd just be like, you a different kind of dude. Yeah, I can tell by her face. Like, yo, this is what you on at 9 and 10? Right. Like, oh man. But yeah, no, that was when I first started rapping. I had a rap group in 1995 called The Final Chapter. It was me, my best friend Troy, rest his soul, and our friend Thomas. All in Landover. We used to go to studio sessions. We used to do open mics. We used to do little talent shows around Seat Pleasant. Yeah, man, I did it seriously until about 99. I was doing it on the low in Suitland. I just never really like, it's a handful of people like Truth Knows and like my man Lance and all these people, Brian, they know, but I never really made it a big thing because I was never going to be an MC. I wasn't you because I was there when you were there. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, and look, and I paid attention, so I was like, oh, I ain't about to rap with this dude. Let me go ahead and start writing some articles or something.
Right. Yeah.
Let me go ahead and edit because I'm good. I'm out of this.
But yeah, how would you say that's informed your writing, right? Like being an MC, like how has that strengthened your pen, if anything?
It made me a lot more thoughtful. And even in writing the Kendrick book, I was really big on pace and cadence. So in recent years, I've become a really big like jazz head. Like I'm digging in crates. I'm listening to like 60 stuff, 70 stuff. And so I'm really big on like moments. And so, for instance, the way I wrote the book, I wrote it to sort of embody a jazz arrangement. And so like the first few chapters are very methodical, almost like I would say like Miles Davis, like the song Bitches Brew, where it just kind of eases you in. But then by chapter 6, when we start getting into To Pimp a Butterfly, it picks up quickly and it just goes in a totally different pace. So yeah, man. So to answer your question, like writing raps and listening to music and just being addicted to music, I'm really big on pace in articles. I think the biggest misconception with writing is that you need to hit the reader with like $50,000 words. And that's not it. You got to hit them with like sustained thought and to keep their interest. Like there's something beautiful in simple and elegant words. And that's what I try to strive for now. And that's what I got rapping with Troy and Thomas 20 years ago.
Wow.
It's powerful.
To stay in that vein, because it's very different, as you know, writing, for articles versus writing a book. Talk about the transition from writing, 500 words, give or take, to now, what was it, 80,000 words?
80,000. Yeah.
How was that like?
It was hard. It was hard. It was difficult. But no, it's it's almost like working out. Like, don't get me wrong. Like there were some days when I'd wake up with that book. I didn't feel like writing. Like I didn't feel like doing anything. I didn't want to listen to Kendrick. I didn't want to do no interviews. I just wanted to chill. Right. But you got to do it every day. So that's the best way. So I would always say, like, I want to do at least 1,000 words a day, right? And some days I don't have 1,000. Some days you don't have 1,000 words in you. Maybe you have 500, but you can also kind of go heavy on the research.
Right.
And so that's what I learned with this, is that the pace is different and the tone is a lot different. So when you're writing an article, it's quick. Even though your word count may be 1,600 words, you still got to get in, get out, talk to this source, talk to that source, come down the middle, and that's it. And I actually just relearned this lesson with the second book I'm working on, where I wrote the prologue and it was really, really quick. And I submitted it to an editor and she was like, you need to work on this pace a little bit. And so I realized that, writing an article is one thing because it's a lot faster and you have to capture people's attention. But I actually prefer book writing because you can live in the story a lot longer. And you realize that what you're doing is gonna last for a longer period of time.
When you tackle a book now going into your second book, do you know like the beginning and end, or do you know pretty much the middle and then you develop the beginning later? Like, how does that work for you?
I pretty much know where it's gonna, I know where it's gonna end, where it's gonna begin rather. I know exactly where it's gonna start. So I know what scene I want to open with. So for instance, with the Kendrick book, I'm like, okay, I need to open with the Macklemore scene because him losing that Grammy is such a big thing for people, and people are still talking about it. Right. So I almost did it sort of Tarantino style, where, like when you watch some of his movies, it drops you in this crazy scene and then it backs you all the way up. Yeah. And so that's what I did with that. So the same thing with De La, which is the second book, where it's like, okay, the opening scene is the Arsenio disc. They are the hippies of hip hop kind of thing. and then it backs up into how they got to that moment. So it's you know, when you're writing a book, you definitely have to pay attention to scenes, because scenes are big, because you have to be as visual as possible when you're writing this stuff, you know, because it's hard with everybody's attention diverted. You know, you have so many things tugging at you now. You have to write in a visual way to try to get people to stick with your narrative for however long it takes. And so, yeah, I just, for the most part, I'll work through it, but I always know where it's going to start.
If so we all know about the Kendrick book, and I'm super excited about the De La book. De La's probably my favorite rap group, or top 3 rap groups of all time, for me personally. But if you could write about anyone next, dead or alive, who would it be?
Man, there's so many people, but I would love to write. I want to write a Minnie Riperton joint.
Oh my God.
I want to write Minnie, man. I want to write Minnie. I want to write Alice Coltrane. I want to write Pharoah Sanders. I think he's another legend. People don't even understand his story. But then when you start unpacking the story, it's like, man, this dude, he's like the guy. But the reason why people don't really pay him attention is because he doesn't really get hopped up on stuff like that. So like Pharoah Sanders and a couple more. Like I think the world needs a Yasin Bey joint. Because like more than anything else, just to wrap up your question, like because I could be naming people all day. So the thing about these books, man, you can go to a library, you can go to a bookstore, and you can see that certain people are going to have a million books. Like you can write a million books on Bob Dylan, you can write a million books on Springsteen, but we didn't have a Kendrick book, we don't have a De La book. I'm trying to write books about people who deserve those flowers, because Black music doesn't really get the flowers that it should in literary form, and I want to do that.
Yeah, that's powerful.
I wanted to talk about the industry that you're in, because with the last administration, as you know, press and media have gotten a lot of flack for with a lot of rhetoric like fake news. What would you, because you've actually have experience outside of music, you've also written about several other topics. What do you see happening for the free press going forward?
I think that going forward, I feel like, you know, journalists now are sort of breathing a sigh of relief because the past 4 or 5 years has been like nothing but combat every day. You know, you're getting tossed out of rooms, you're getting tossed out of this meeting and that meeting. But I feel that moving forward, there is definitely a sigh of relief, I can tell just from people I've talked to in the business. But I would also caution people to not just sort of rest on the laurels, because I feel that once Biden got elected, the natural inclination is to be like, oh man, all right, well, cool. All right, well, we're back to somebody normal. But you also have to understand that Biden's been a politician for like 40 years. And so, you know what I'm saying? So he knows the game. So let's not act like we got a savior in there. You know what I mean? So I feel like the free press moving forward, if we've learned any lesson from the past 4 years, is that you just got to be incredibly honest. And I feel like before then we got lulled into this false sense of security where like maybe certain reporters wouldn't report the truth as they would have in previous administrations. So we need to get back to that. Just like the thing I've learned, whether it was working at the Gazette or TOP or wherever, as long as you're fair and you're balanced, the sources that you're talking to have no problem with what you write. Just make sure that all sides are represented and you come down the middle as best as you can. So, so I would say if we can get back to that of just making sure that all bases are covered in whatever story you're doing, and it doesn't just dissolve into like talking heads on this channel versus that channel. I feel like we can we can get back to the way press is supposed to be.
Right.
Definitely. What advice would you have for like inspiring writers and upcoming journalists?
I would say, especially Black journalists, be able to cover multiple things. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you come up, like, let's just say, you know, you're a young Black journalist, you're at a publication and you're covering general assignment. Think big picture, cover all the stuff. So, and you know, while you're also going to the school board meeting, also think about the homeless population. You know, think about housing crisis, or you know, think about all different types of things because when you're a Black journalist, you have to almost be a Swiss Army knife in that regard.
Right.
So that's what I would tell young journalists is to just make sure that your portfolio is as diversified as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you know, look, if that's your passion, great. But if you have another passion, let's just say, you know, you're working at a newspaper, but you also like music or you like art, don't be afraid to go to that thing. You know, even if you don't have clips in that arena, still try it out because the tenets are still the same. You know, you still have to be able to report. You still have to be able to cultivate relationships and talk to people and just be a human being. So if you carry that into whatever sort of beat you're doing, and you treat people the way they ought to be treated or they deserve to be treated, you will have no problems at all.
Yeah. Leads me to the next question, which is kind of a different side of things, right? Like, what advice would you give to musicians who are oftentimes seeking, you know, to be covered in different things like that in terms of their interaction with the press, their like the relationships? What advice would you give them?
Yo, it's a hot take or a controversial take, but I've always maintained this. Pay us no attention. Pay journalists zero attention. Like, what I feel like musicians ought to be focusing on just making the best music they can. And I firmly believe this. People may disagree with me, but music always has this way of finding the right ears. So if you make something that you believe in your heart is the best representation of how you were feeling on that day, it's gonna find the right person. Trust me. I mean, that's not to say don't push it at all, but don't push it to the point and get your hopes up so high that if it doesn't get covered the way you think it ought to be covered, that, you know, okay, let me blow it up and do something else, because you don't need to do that. I would say, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, you just have to operate like the press doesn't even exist. You know, when you're in the studio, you're like, yo, this is just gonna be a dope record for my friends or whoever can get with this, and whoever can't, that's cool. Maybe I'll catch them on the next one. I think the biggest mistake that some musicians make is that they make a song, they send it to all the press outlets, they send it to all of these people, and then they get mad and they get discouraged when it doesn't get covered. And it's like, no, make sure you're creating a project that no matter when it's discovered, it's timeless. You know what I mean? Don't make something of the moment either. I would also say that. Just like, make something where maybe if people don't understand it now, they'll get it 10 or 20 years down the road, and then a whole new generation is tapping into what you're doing, and that's how you live forever.
Oh, lightning round question. So I love that answer. And that made me think of a particular project, but I'm gonna ask you the question and then I'm gonna share what that project is.
Sure.
What do you feel like is an album that probably fits into exactly what you're saying? Like, when it came out, people didn't understand it, got poor reviews, and then years later, like, that project gets all the praise. Like, what? Like, I know you're a music buff, so what project is that for you?
Man, you know what? I haven't seen where it's gotten praise, but I've seen where more people are like, yo, this joint was ahead of its time. I remember when the Common Electric Circus record came out.
Yeah.
Bruh, I knew, I was like, yo.
That joint was killing. I was like, yo,
so good.
I remember I was a senior. I was a senior in college. And the joint came out, and I always had a thing, like, me and my best friend Brian, we were roommates at Bowie State. And so we would do this thing where, okay, I'm gonna drive to the record store and get these CDs for us, right? And so I went and I got the CD, and for whatever reason, I didn't go back to campus. I forgot what I was doing. I think I went home or something like that. And I'm playing it. And so we're texting back and forth, and I'm like, yo, man, I'm on track 10. I haven't heard a week song on this yet.
Bruh.
Like this joint is next level. This joint is crazy. Like even the transitions like between the songs, I was like, Common was a master at that.
Yes.
He was a master at that. And I remember I was like, oh well, clearly. And then hold on, it came out December 10th, and I remember the 930 Club show. I want to say it was like the 17th. It was December 17th. So I'm in the front row. I'm like all in. I'm going.
Right.
I'm gone. I'm dapping.
Right.
I'm dapping people up, whatever. So I'm like, okay, Common about to blow up off of this. Man, the reviews came out and everybody hated that joint. I was like, I don't understand. And in subsequent years, he sort of apologized for making it. And I'm like, no, like this joint is good. So anyway, I could talk about that record all day, but yeah, I can tell you I had a visceral reaction.
I'm so happy that we're all on the same page.
Because you know, I found myself defending that record so much. But I mean, the great thing about talking about it so much was, I found myself able to articulate things about the record that a lot of people just missed. And then I was like, man, this dude had a posse cut.
I was just get out of my head. I was just going to say that.
That posse cut that he had on his album, that is, dude, like with all of the different vocalists, there's no chorus, right? Like when have we heard this many singers on one song with no hook, all of them having original verses, and it's on a rap album, and the rapper doesn't even rap on it. He does a spoken word piece to set the whole thing off. And he had like, what was it, Jill Scott, CeeLo, Erica, what was it, Omar, singer, Bilal. Oh my God, like, yo, that record, I argue that record was a masterpiece, man. But definitely, yeah, it was unfortunate. It was really unfortunate how people just couldn't see the vision. But I saw a review, something where they kind of circle back 10 years later, talking about the record and like just kind of talking about the same thing about it being ahead of its time. But yeah, bro, that was the record that I had in mind when I asked the question after you said what you said. So
and just real quick, I won't belabor it too much, but I'm always like, look, okay, that record came out in 2002. Okay, listen to that, and then go listen to Flying Lotus, go listen to Thundercat. Listen to all of that Brain Feeder stuff that came out. Sa-Ra, listen to all that. And tell me like that the Common joint wasn't first. But like I remember I did a 10-year anniversary joint where I talked to him. And I was like, yo, like, don't apologize for this record. This record is amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in too. Like, you know, it definitely paved the way for a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That was the test.
Right,
you passed the test.
Right.
Oh, I get tested all the time. It's all good.
Set them up for the oop. Bam, you know.
But this is actually a perfect segue question, because you've given voice to the underdog. You've given voice to a lot of independent artists. And I would like to know, what is your take as far as how you see music in the future? You know, we see a lot of there's a lot of cross, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out. Like you have a lot of people crossing into different avenues, whether it's pop, rock, soul, country. Grammys was last night. We made Beyonce made history, being the 28 wins, 28 Grammys since her career. A record for any woman in the industry. We also had I didn't get the name, but the country singer, first black country singer to be featured on the Grammys. I mean, there's still history being made. Here we are, 2021. What do you see in the future for music?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like there's this new vanguard of musicians who may not be mainstream, but they're equally great, and they're getting the attention that they deserve. So for instance, like you just pointed out, and I'm thankful that you did that. Like, even though the first book is about Kendrick, the second book is about De La Soul, my true affinities lie in the underground, quote unquote underground. It lies with people like Moses Sumney and like Nick Hakim and like Pink Sifu and like all of these people who, when the records come out, I'm like, oh, clearly this is the greatest. Like, this is amazing. You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, they just don't get the same marketing budget as these other people. But I've noticed over the past few years that that sort of music is also dovetailing with this sort of new renaissance in Black TV and Black creativity. So about 3 years ago, I guess it was about 3 years ago, you have like Random Acts of Flyness come out. You have Atlanta. You have what now? You have like Lovecraft Country. You have all these different shows where it's showing that Black people aren't monolithic, and it's showing that, you know, if you want something that's super weird and sci-fi, go to Lovecraft or go to Watchmen. Or if you want like just a funny, understated show with, you know, Donald Glover at the helm, watch Atlanta. But at the same time, the reason why I say that is because these people they also love the type of music that I was talking about. Like, for instance, yesterday I had the pleasure of interviewing the brother Shaka King, who directed Judas and the Black Messiah. And so that trailed off into discussion about music. And I'm like, so what are your, you know, he's a total Bandcamp head. So he's like, oh man, I love like Quelle Chris, and I love like Armand Hammer. I love Billy Woods. And I'm like, see, it takes people like that to put like Quelle in a movie to score 6 scenes for his joint. It's going to take, you know, Terrence Nance putting his brother in the show, which also brings on like Mavi and like Sweatshirt and all these people. You know what I mean? So I say all that to say that, you know, the Kendricks and the Drakes and the Kanyes, they're good. They're all set.
Right.
There's now this sort of there's this new current rather of like new jazz musicians and hip hop musicians and pop musicians who don't have the same marketing budget as the top tier, but their music is so good that you can't deny it anymore. And so that's the kind of stuff I like.
It's so funny that you bring that up, because I was watching Hollywood Reporter, and Regina King put, I forget the sister's first name, but her last name is Joy. She's a jazz singer who sounds exactly like Sarah Vaughan. Phenomenal singer. And literally you go on her YouTube page and, you know, everybody's like, oh, thank you, Regina, for putting me on. And now this girl, you know, numbers are going through the roof. But exactly what you said, you have a lot of, you know, these, you know, big tier, hot, you know, big name celebrity artists who are putting, you know, these up and coming or emerging or just working artists, you know, to in front of a larger audience.
Absolutely.
All of us are home. Most of us are home, you know, and have the time.
And also shout out to Tiny Desk, because Bobby and Sid over there have been doing a great job of putting like Melanie Charles and like all of these people who like historically just don't get those looks for whatever reason. Now they're like, no, they're dope. We're going to put them on this desk, or we're going to have to do a Tiny Desk at home or whatever. So shout out to them too. I mean, they're really big proponents of culture, and they deserve that praise.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man. So we'll shift gears right now and get back to the books, brother. So
man.
What are you reading right now? I'm between you and shout out to the homie Mega Ran, who has a really dope memoir. So what are you reading at the moment, though?
Oh man, I'm reading. It's tough when you're writing your own book, because I never want to be psyched out, because like my friends are too good, so I don't want to read that stuff. Like I can't be writing my stuff and be like, oh, let me see what this Jason Reynolds joint talking about. Then I go back to mine. I'm like, man, this joint back. I can't do this, man. But now I'm gonna start the Barack book. I'm starting that joint. The Dead Are Rising, the Malcolm X book. And actually, hold on, I got my homie's book right here. Wait a minute, I got a plugger. The Havoc of Choice. This joint right here. Kenyan author, Shiru. Yeah, so those I'm sort of going between those three right now, but I try to spend at least a few hours with De La, so you know that deadline won't creep up on me. But yeah, that's sort of what I'm reading right now.
Right. Okay.
So about the book, about the Butterfly Effect, how did that all come about? Did you meet was it after a conversation with Kendrick, or what happened there?
Oh no, I tell you, it was I want to say it was 2017. It was just a random day. That was when I was working at Bandcamp full time as their senior editor. And so it was I was walking down Franklin Avenue in Greenpoint because our office was in Greenpoint. So it's just a regular lunch break. And I'm listening to Pimp a Butterfly on headphones. And I'm such a jazz head that I was just like, man, there is a book in here. I want to know how Thundercat came into the session. I want to know how Robert Glasper got here, how Anna Wise attacked this, how like Layla Hathaway. So then I started thinking, and I was like, there might be a book in there. Like, I don't know if it's a whole book just on that record, but there's a book about To Pimp a Butterfly and how it came out during the rise of Black Lives Matter, and how his music is working in concert with all of these different things. And so I tell you, I ran the idea first past Jason Reynolds, who's a really good friend, really honest. And so I was like, well, if he digs it, then I think I got something. And so I ran it past him, and he was like, oh yeah, this is something right here. So I ran it past another brother named Todd Hunter, who at the time was an editor at a publishing house. And so we sat down. He actually helped me hash out the idea. And then he was sending book proposals, like, to help me try to figure out how to get my narrative together to sell the book. And I noticed there was an agent at the bottom of every proposal he sent, this cat named William Loturco. I hit up William cold. I sent a cold email in 2017, like, yo, man, you don't know me from anything, but if we could sit down and have coffee, that'd be great. I want to write this book about Kendrick. And then, so as soon as we sat down, literally before the coffee hit the table, he was like, yep, let's go ahead and do this. And so the reason why I decided to go with it, because I know Kendrick is such a private character. And so I knew the likelihood of me getting Kendrick or me getting TDE was super low, because I mean, I hear that they're really good people. They're just always locked into album mode, and they don't talk. They don't say anything. So it wouldn't be anything personal if I didn't get them. Right. And I knew that there was enough there in terms of a narrative where I could approach it like a regular article, that it would have been great if I got him, but if I didn't get him, it wouldn't hinder the narrative. And so thankfully Atria Books and Simon & Schuster felt the exact same way, because they hit me with the full court press. I mean, that meeting, it was everybody and their mama sitting around the table. Like, yeah, sign, if you sign here, it's this. So that's sort of the short version of how that came together.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Listen, the book is amazing.
Tell me anything, Stan.
Oh no, man. Listen, you had me before I even got into the story, really, because the book starts off. Hold on.
He's gonna give you a reading. He's gonna give you a reading.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you how are you gonna start a book like this? So before you even get to the contents, really, it starts by saying, to God and the spirits, Ida Hart, Raymond Hart, Eric Hart, Lamanda, did I say that right? Lamanda Moore, and Troy Perryman, to Landover in Prince George's County, Maryland. I was like, best book I ever read in my life. Best book. Listen, bro, I went back and listen, we've all been reading all of our lives for the most part, right? And so to see that in a book about arguably the most, to see the hometown in a book about like one of the biggest artists of our time, one of the most important artists of our time, and to see PG playing a role in that, through you, was huge for me, man. Like, and I'm sure for like anybody else who comes across the book who's from here, just to, we're one of, I feel like our community and people from our community contribute to various industries in so many different ways, and contribute to Black culture over the years in so many different ways. And we remain a hidden gem. So so it's great when I get to see us on in anything. When we were watching Insecure and the women were like, oh yeah, we're from Prince George's County, Maryland, we're from PG or something like that. You know what I mean? Like every time the woman was like, hey, and so yeah, man,
or the young man in Coming to America too.
Yeah, yeah, man.
He's from PG.
That's right, from Hyattsville. Yeah.
Yeah, Hyattsville.
Yeah. So, you know, it's always great to see people from the area. You know what I'm saying? From the area, you know, it's always a great look. So, you know, of course, we were proud regardless. You know what I mean? Even if we would have been proud even if you were from Montgomery County, right?
Or Fairfax.
Or Fairfax.
Okay, thank you.
You know, but there's a special place in my heart for anybody from PG. You already know.
Absolutely, bro. Actually, when Kev Brown hit me too when he saw that. When he saw To Landover, he hit me like, yo.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's right. Landover.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
right.
man.
You know, I wanted to ask you, because I know, especially in hip hop, people always talk about top five.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to ask you that top five, but if you had to choose, what are your top 5 books?
Mm.
I'm going to say Between the World and Me, because it also has some PG elements in there.
Mm-hmm.
In no particular order, because my brain, I don't want nobody coming after me. Oh man, I loved Hanif Abdul Rakib's book on A Tribe Called Quest. Yeah, Go Ahead in the Rain was a joint, because he revolutionized, I think, how you write about the living. You know, because he made it about himself, and he didn't really have, like, you know, interviews and such. It was like a personal account. So all my joints are probably going to be music books, to be honest, but
that's fine.
But yeah, but no, I also loved and there's another recent joint, Jason Green's book. He was a colleague at Pitchfork. He wrote, it's called Once More We Saw Stars. It was a memoir about the passing of his daughter at the age of 2.
Wow.
I remember that day. Like, yeah, that was a sad day. And so he wrote a whole book about it, and it was very therapeutic in a way, because Jason is just such a beautiful writer, man. What else? I like the Dapper Dan joint. The Dapper Dan joint was killing, and I like oh man, The Purpose of Power, the new Alicia Garza joint, was really dope too. Yeah. Those are, I mean, I'm sure there's a much better list out there, but those are the things that are just sort of on my spirit right now as I write my own thing.
Yeah.
Those are the books that sort of stick with me.
Absolutely.
That's what's up. How about you, Mrs. Robinson? Give me 2.
Oh gosh.
Give me 2. Off the top.
All right.
Off the top.
Off the top.
You know, I'm reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' 8 Years We Were in Power. It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle to read that one, because not only because it's very scholarly. I mean, it's research. It's more of a research versus a narrative. So that's what I'm reading now. So that's what's fresh in my head. Oh God, give you 2. Why you put the pressure on me? I'm not the guest.
Oh, okay, I know, but you know. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe they want to know what we think too. You know, we talking about books. Why not? Give them some
okay, it's not necessarily my top, but it's ingrained in my brain, because it was also a very difficult book to read, is Ruthie. It was one of Oprah's best books, is on her list, and it was a very difficult read. Talking about it has the whole spirituality aspect, and you know, women, and it was just, you know, but it's ingrained in my mind. I have trauma from it, but other than that, yeah, those are the 2 that stand out. What about you, Mr. Robinson? What are you reading?
I got you. No. Well, I already said what I was reading, but my favorites, 2 of my favorites. Oh, yeah, I know what you're gonna say. Yeah, To Smile in Autumn. Yeah. You know, To Smile in Autumn. By Gordon Parks, definitely. That's man. Your boy. Yeah, Gordon's one of my heroes, man. But yeah, that book, I was mad that I discovered it so late. But I was mad that I discovered it late, but at the same time, I feel though, you ever find a book and you feel like you found that book at the moment you were supposed to find it, because it was speaking to your truth of the moment. And that's what that book was for me, because I think I was just in my 30s, just getting into my 30s, and then reading a book called To Smile in Autumn, which is talking about him in that transition of his life, moving into those later years, you know what I mean, leaving his 30s and then figuring out what to do next. And then, you know, of course, I mean, the easy one is the autobiography of Malcolm X, but just to switch it up, because I love, man, I'm a super Chuck Palahniuk fan. I'm not sure if you ever read Chuck Palahniuk. He's not for everybody, but he has an excellent book called Lullaby. And I've read several of his books, but Lullaby is probably my favorite. Yeah, but definitely Lullaby is really dope. It's about we'll talk about that offline. But yeah, it's dope. But yeah, man, yeah. You were gonna.
I was gonna ask you. I know as a writer and now as an author, as even a DJ.
Mm-hmm.
So,
man.
if you had to choose just one to do the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Oh, which thing?
Yeah, one of those things. Yeah.
I'm gonna say, as hard as it is writing,
Right.
writing, man, writing books. I know I complain some days. Like even today, I had like this low moment of like, man, I don't feel like doing nothing, man. Like I don't feel like doing anything. But then I don't know. It's a weird phenomenon, and maybe y'all can speak to this too. I just love the look of like font on a page.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's double spaced, and you're making sense, and it's like it's almost like writing a blackout verse, right? Where you're like, oh, this joint is killing. So
right.
So that's how I would do that. I mean, as difficult as it is to sometimes get books pushed through and to get ideas and to have editors just sort of picking at your brain a little bit. It's nothing beats the feeling of when the book comes out and love it or hate it or whatever, people are like really, really responding to it, and yeah, that's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, I was good. Me, I might go left. So, stick to the script. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead.
Nah, it's all right. You got it.
No, because I know we're about to wrap up, but I wanted to because you like you said, mentioned before, digging into the crates, you have a very, very diverse collection of what you listen to. Heaven forbid, right? There's a fire and you could only select 5 records. What is the 5?
Okay, I'm gonna go Eddie Gale's Ghetto Music album.
Okay.
Shabaka and the Ancestors, Wisdom of Elders. D'Angelo Voodoo.
Oh,
of course. I mean,
D'Angelo.
Right. I mean, come on, D'Angelo Voodoo. I'm trying to think of some off the beaten path joints because I like shouting people out. Yo, I don't know if y'all heard this record. It came out last April. It's a lot. It's a lot now. But Pink Seafood, we were talking about him. He came out with this record called Negro. That was like, it's one of those things. Even though it's a lot, I come back to it. And my last joint, simply because, again, I know that's an obvious answer, but To Pimp a Butterfly. To Pimp a Butterfly, because it's one of those records that even though I wrote about it and I wrote a book about Kendrick and all that, I can still go back to it and pick out stuff that maybe I'm like, dang, did I talk about that in the book? No, I didn't. Like, that kind of stuff. So those are the 5 that I would grab up right away. I know I missed a lot, but I try to get joints that are not like the classics or the easy answers.
Right. No, I feel that. Yeah. So one thing we didn't talk about, which I think, because a good amount of the people who listen to our podcast and now starting to watch the show, we have a lot of visual artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of just a variety of creatives, and some of the creatives in our circle, like yourself, happen to split their time in different locations. So besides living in the U.S., you also, you and your wife, shout out to her because she's also amazing in her own right. But y'all live in Kenya, correct?
Yeah. That's where I am now. Yeah, we're in Nairobi. We split time between Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. Y'all know exactly where we at. Washington and DeKalb. So we over there.
Right, our old neighborhood.
Yeah. So we split time between Brooklyn and Nairobi, essentially chasing the sun because, again, my wife just cannot deal with weather. Like once that temperature dips to like 40, she's like, all right, gotta go. Right. Yeah. Whereas I don't care. I'm like, I'll lay her up. I'll still go to the show and whatnot. But she's like, no, I got to dip. So yeah, that's what we do. 6 months on, 6 months here.
Right. How has that affected your creative process and like just y'all energy in general? Like how has it helped y'all develop?
Yo, I mean, I would say like 60% of the Kendrick book was written out here. And just from a pure logistics standpoint, it's helpful because it's 7 or 8 hours ahead. So right now, 7 hours ahead because of daylight savings time, but any other time it's 8. So I feel like I can wake up here at 9 o'clock and have a full day of book writing before my email even starts moving.
Right.
And then from there, I can, determine, okay, I'm gonna write this article, I'm gonna listen to this record at night or whatever. But just from a meditative standpoint, it was incredibly helpful because I didn't realize how much I needed to be here until I got here, because it wasn't on my radar at all. Like, I mean, for me, New York is it, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we live in a great neighborhood and it's still not far from home. So I can still hop on the Amtrak or hop on the bus and I'm home in like 3 hours. And that's important for me as my folks get older, it's just being close. But being out here, it's like, you don't realize how traumatized you are as a Black American until you move out here. Because for the first few months, you're just expecting stuff to like happen, or you're walking around with this tension that you don't know why. But then you realize that the people out here they have no sort of frame of reference for the sort of tension that you came up with. And then in turn, they help ease it. You know what I mean? Just by being themselves and just by, being easier, the quality of life is better. Yeah. And so it's helped us in that regard, but I would be lying to you if I said that I don't miss Brooklyn terribly. Because it's just, again, between pre-COVID, whether it was jazz shows or whether it was like, just being in the neighborhood, that's the kind of creativity I need. So I feel that moving forward, we've been talking about this, we're going to be spending more time in Brooklyn, but we're still going to have a place here. But we're not going to be here as often as we have been the past couple of years.
Wow. This is so good. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Marcus. This was great. We want to wish you continued success and blessings with this book, with the De La book, and with all of your projects in between. So we thank you for spending the time with us. I know it's late where you are.
Oh, it's cool.
But we just want to thank you for taking the time to share with us and with our audience. And again, just wishing you all the best in everything.
Oh, likewise. No, thank y'all. No, I mean, again, it's like talking to family, so it's really no problem at all. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, man, listen, right?
Don't cuss me out too bad. Don't cuss me out too bad once the camera go off. Like, damn, I ain't say nothing, young.
Nah, man.
No, you did perfect.
Yeah, you were great, man. You were great. I'm sure our audience will enjoy it. Those who haven't watched yet or heard it yet will definitely they're going to enjoy it, man. Like you are, besides being talented, you've always been gracious with your time. Yeah, and so we definitely appreciate that, and I'm sure the listeners are going to appreciate it too. But yeah, man, seriously, we appreciate you, bro.
No problem at all, man. Thank y'all.
All right, best of luck to you.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right.
So definitely, everybody, thank y'all for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. You can also donate to our channel as well if you'd like to. You can check out the banner on the main page, and make sure you follow Marcus J. Moore on social media. On Twitter is Marcus J. Moore, and on Instagram it is _@ Marcus J. Moore. All right. I see I was struggling there. It's like,
all right. It's okay, man.
You know what I'm saying? All right, got this. But we're going to go ahead and head out with the outro. And yeah, man, y'all be well. Peace. Thanks for listening to Artistry, where art meets industry. This podcast has been brought to you by Substantial Art and Music. For more information, please visit www.subartmusic.com.
can also follow us on social media at SubArtMusic. We'll see you soon, but talk to you soon. Peace.